I want to play some video for you that connects to a story that's just now developing. The video comes from that Libertarian Convention that Trump spoke at, where he was brutally booed, as you're going to observe. And then, obviously that was before the election. Now that Trump has won and is staffing his administration, some of the people at this convention who Trump made promises to are trying to hold Trump to account to the promises he made. I'll fill you in on what I'm talking about. But first, just sit back, relax, and enjoy a little bit of the joy of hearing Trump get booed at a Libertarian Party convention. Do you remember this?
Only if you want to win. Only if you want to win. Maybe you don't want to win. Maybe you don't want to win. Thank you, D-Roy. Thank you. No, only do that if you want to win. If you want to lose, don't do that. Keep getting your 3% every 4 years.
And I'll mute it there, but quite literally booed off stage. A song plays there, so for copyright we'll mute. But he got booed into oblivion. It's satisfying. Less fun now that he won the election, but still interesting to see people who are definitely to the right not vibing with Trump. But some of them, and some of the libertarians I talked to did, because we went to this, by the way, back in May when this happened, did plan to vote for Trump if it came down to Trump versus Harris. In part because of promises he made, which we'll get to. While we watch this, please do click the subscribe button. First, before that, let's walk through a few more of these other clips.
Wrote an article yesterday in which he mentions just some of the things that make me a libertarian without even trying to be one. That's nice. D-Roy wrote, Donald J. Trump will address the Libertarian Party and its national convention on Saturday. The Libertarian Party should nominate Trump for President of the United States. Whoa. That's nice.
It's always weird when he's reading something and then reacts to it while he's reading it. And it's like, wait, you didn't know you were going to read that? Then this.
Now I think you should nominate me or at least vote for me, and we should win together. You heard those words. Nominate me or vote. Vote for me. Because the Libertarians want to vote for me, and most of them will.
And one of the things that when I talk to people at the convention that they took issue with Trump on is, Libertarians want super small government. They care a lot about addressing the debt, at least in theory, and want to cut funding to programs and defund all these sorts of things. And Trump, when he was president, didn't actually do that, and he ballooned the deficit and thus debt. And he, to the credit of the libertarian folks who I disagree with on most things, at least here they were standing by their principle and not just going with the guy who technically, by our traditional standards, is closer to them politically than Harris would be. But then a guy who was at this event named Clint Russell said, respectfully, I would love to know what happened to this promise. I was sitting fifth row center stage. At minimum, I would like an explanation. I think many of us would. And that's, again, being posted in, last couple of days about something Trump said at this convention in May when he was trying to get these libertarians to vote for him. Many of them probably did. Some that I talked to were planning on it. Maybe because he made a promise like this.
That is why I'm committing to you tonight that I will put a libertarian in my cabinet and also libertarians in senior posts. Pretty good.
That's a pretty good promise. Y'all like that, huh? As they're booing. And we've talked about in a different segment. Trump has now got his full list of nominations and appointments, and someone from the Libertarian Party is not on it, from all we can tell. And so some of these libertarian folks who were at this speech, maybe open-minded to Trump, are demanding answers. And to them I say, with love in my heart and compassion in my head, you're not getting it, okay? You're not getting an answer from Trump. He's not going to follow through on promises. He uses voters for power. And we just got some news that points to exactly why he desperately wanted to be president. NBC News reporting on something that we knew was coming, I already told you, but now it's officially happening. Jack Smith files to drop all federal charges against Donald Trump. Special counsel Jack Smith filed motions to drop all federal charges against President-elect Donald Trump regarding his mishandling of classified documents and his effort to overturn his 2020 presidential election in the lead-up to the deadly January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol. The case was then put on hold for months as Trump's team argued that the case should be thrown out for multiple reasons, and the immunity Supreme Court ruling came out. And now that Trump's going to be president, it's long-standing Justice Department policy that they don't prosecute sitting presidents. Trump's election victory means that the Justice Department's long-standing position that the sitting president cannot be charged with a crime will apply to Trump after he takes office on January 20th. Quote, that prohibition is categorical and does not turn on the gravity of the crimes charged, the strength of the government's proof, or the merits of the prosecution, which the government stands fully behind. And so the question is, if he left office, would charges be brought again? We'll see. But I can't think about that right now. We just have to come to terms with the fact that while I hope ultimately justice prevails, that doesn't mean it always does in the moment. And times of injustice are present in history and currently, and we're living through that example of sometimes justice doesn't prevail. And Trump wanted so desperately to become president to avoid being put in prison. For what? Yes, the classified document stuff, and that was huge. To mishandle our government secrets like that is horrific. But as I've said, since he was indicted in Fulton County and the federal case on the election interference effort, there's nothing a president can do worse than try to end democratic elections by keeping himself in power despite losing one. And that's what Jack Smith was trying to hold him accountable for. And the evidence was overwhelming. You can't get away with, you'd think, apparently you can, but getting folks to sign fraudulent forms saying they're the lawful electors of a state when they're not, so that your VP can count those and say you won an election that you didn't. It's such an easy thing to catch because we have the forms. You sent the forms into governmental entities, so we got them now. We got the proof. And not to mention all the other things Trump engaged in to try to overturn the election. So, for the time being, it worked for him. That's what this was about. In addition to him salivating over retribution and some other things, it wasn't about you. It wasn't about a libertarian voter. It wasn't about promises made, promises kept. And until people who are open-minded to Trump or supportive of him learn that, we're not going to make progress on rejecting his ideology. Let me know your thoughts in the comments.